Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Serge Libert. I'm working for the federal government of Belgium, and I was invited to say a few words about the Belgian e-invoicing journey to give you a bit the insights of this. As you probably know, we have an important year to come in 2026, so it's the moment to recap a bit from where we come and what is the perspective. Who's who? Just a small side to introduce myself. So I'm working for a federal public service called Policy and Support. In Dutch, Beleid en Ondersteuning. In French, Stratégie et Appui. It gives BOSA as an acronym. It was founded in 2017 to merge different transversal institutions. And more particularly, I am working for Directorate General Simplification and Digitalization, which is competent for digitalization matters, which includes e-invoicing. Myself, I am managing projects at this institution since 2003 already, and in the past I've been employed in the private sector. I've been working for IBM, Citibank and KPN, and also as an independent for a few years. I'm now in charge of e-invoicing since 2013, so it's quite a long journey, focusing on the IT aspects. That's also the reason why I'm giving this feedback at the conference of an IT solution provider. And it's all led us, BOSA, to become Belgian Peppol authority. Policy aspects, I gave a few words about the policy aspects because we as a government, we are not there to deliver the solutions, but to make sure that there is a solution for our enterprises and our citizens. And I think it's worth thinking about the role of the invoice in the economy, which makes it so critical for our digital future to focus on e-invoicing. Actually, invoice is connected to a lot of different processes, which are quite critical for the economy, for the independent, for the companies. First of all, the sales process, because yes, if you sell, you send an invoice. So it's quite important. The accounting process is also involved. The cash flow of the company depends on the incoming and outgoing invoices. There is an obvious connection with the tax collection process, with the VAT. The incoming invoice is connected to the purchasing, the procurement cycle, which is also important for most of the enterprises. And there is also a connection with the banking and finance concern and processes, because the invoices flow determine your solvability to a certain extent, and that is quite important to get good conditions for the loans. And last but not least, the invoice is also a legal document, so there are legal implications. When you have all these things in your mind, then you see that generalizing e-invoicing goes much broader than e-invoicing. It is a very important leverage for the digitalization of the economy. Moreover, the invoice affects administration, enterprise, and then also our households, citizens, so it touches everybody. That makes it a gigantic endeavor to digitalize that process with a lot of spillover effects, a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of challenges, because a lot of competences are affected. So it's important to think transversal, to not only focus at the IT aspect, but also other competences, like finance, of course, like simplification, like economy. The regional aspects are also important. And that is quite an important thing. It brings me to the slide that a bit summarizes the situation in Belgium. I give the basic stats, like we are a small country, only 30,000 kilometers. We have 11 million inhabitants, which gives us a quite important density of population. We have 1.2 million VAT liable over more or less 2 million enterprises, and 1 billion invoices exchanged per year. That is the estimate that is already from 2015, so we maybe need to actualize that, but okay, at this moment we stick with the figure. It gives us 400 million B2B invoices per year. Like I said, I started with the invoicing 12 years ago, so there has been different phases. I go quickly into this. We had a pilot phase in 2013 where we discovered how it worked, focusing at the B2G invoicing, business to government, the purchasing cycle of the businesses, of the administration, sorry. And then based on that pilot, we have rolled out the solution to all the public sector entities. Based on the European law, it's quite important to incorporate the European dimension into this because they are also quite active at the policy level. And from 2022, our colleagues from finance have decided to focus at B2B and to consider the possibility to regulate the adoption in the B2B segment, which ended up, that policy preparation ended up into a law, 6th of February 24, and we are now rolling out the different, the e-invoicing to the different enterprises in Belgium, based on that law, which says that all VAT liable entities must send and receive structured electronic invoices by 1st of January 26. So there was 2 years for the rollout. It is based on the market. It is not something that the government operates. So the different players on the market offer their services to the Belgian enterprises to make this happen. But the law provides also that there is a kind of two-track possibility. The first track is what I call the royal way. It's Peppol. If the people don't know exactly how to do, well, they just have to at least be able to send and receive on Peppol. If for some reason the sender and the receiver have some agreement between them that goes out of the Peppol standards and network, at their own rights, at their own risk and perils, and upon a bilateral agreement between the sender and receiver, they may consider other possibilities. But the Peppol solution is considered like the common denominator solution, which helps all the IT solutions to find themselves around a common standard. 2 slides with evolutions. So here you see the growth of e-invoice receivers on Peppol. I call that interoperable e-invoices. And you see that over the 2-3 last months, the figures are going quite well. We are now about 413,000 receivers. We must go 1,200,000, so there's still a long way to go, but it goes in the good direction. And you see on the small table that we are number 2 for the moment in terms of invoice received per inhabitant on the Peppol network. The Norway is still better than us, but they started more than 10 years ago with this project. The next slide is the evolution of the Peppol invoices, the Belgian Peppol invoices. You see that we come from 600,000 invoices per month. We are now 1.6 million invoices per month in July. I don't have the figures for Augustus yet. So there is still a long way to go. That is also why I put this curve. It's like a hockey stick curve that we need to have. At the same time, I did not put a slide on that, but the amount of operators is growing dramatically, so it looks quite fine. Now maybe say a word about what is Peppol, because a lot of people don't really know about that. I just want to simplify. Imagine that you are a sender and you have a software, and you don't want to know what software your receiver has. You just want a cable between the both of them, and that cables make you and your receiver understand each other, also the content, not only the file but also the content. Well, Peppol is that kind of cable, if you want the best analogy. It's a network, it's quite complex technically, but at the end of the day, for the end user, it's just a cable between your computer or your sending system and the receiving system of your receiver, and the other way around, of course. It's based on open standards. It's based on a decentralized approach with a federated network. I will come to that. And it's also backed with a very strong governance, like the people cannot do whatever they want. There are rules. There are not too much rules, but there are rules, and the people have to stick to the rules. And there is a structure to make sure that the people stick to the rules. So that's why I call Peppol like the ultimate middleware. You don't want to know what that middleware is, but it works, and it connects you to the whole planet. Because it's not a Belgian project, it's a European project that in the meantime, since 2018, is really growing up internationally. It's adopted by Japan, by New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, and other countries, and it's going more and more in the future. Quite important for us to have an international solution. In terms of topology, how does that network look like? I said you don't need to know, but I will give you a few elements. That Peppol network is just like a circle, but with different layers. And I would call that, there are 4 layers actually. There is what I would call the outer periphery, which is all the beneficiaries, all the enterprises that are connected through the network. And to make sure that it can grow ad infinitum, that outer periphery has an inner periphery, which are the operators. It's not one operator, it's not 2 operators. As we speak, there are more than 800 operators in total on the Peppol network, and 90 of them are active in Belgium, are more than active. They have signed with the Belgian Peppol authority. I expect that in the future it will keep growing, and that we will have connections with more and more software manufacturers who will play the role of these operators, because it's just software at the end of the day, like Odoo is demonstrating, and that we might get to 300 access points. The access point is the technical name of these operators who are forming the inner periphery of the network. And then there is a second part in the network, a more obscure part, which is the center. And it's composed of an outer center with all the Peppol authorities. Like I said, it's decentralized, so all the countries have their own Peppol authority. Belgium has a Peppol authority, which is BOSA, and I'm working for BOSA. And then there is really an inner center, the coordination bodies, which cannot be decentralized. You know, you see all these acronyms. PCA stands for Peppol Coordination Authority. SML stands for Service Metadata Locator. OO is Operating Office. CMB, Change Management Boards, making sure that all the changes on the network, because they are changed all the day, are coordinated and implemented, rolled out in order to not break interoperability in the network. And managing committee is the decision body, the central decision body that gets the central decision making. I hope this is clear. I will get the question later anyway if it's not clear enough. I give you another slide just to go through the journey of an invoice on the Peppol network. On the step 1, the sender is just the sender's outbound invoicing tool is just generating the document. And then it goes to the access point component, which looks up after the receiver service metadata publisher. It's a register that publishes the information about the receivers. And these SMLs these SMPs are decentralized So there is one central component, the service metadata allocator, which informs where is the SMP. Based on that information, the access point component goes to the SMP and looks up for the access point address and the capabilities of the receiver. And based on that information, the access point just then sends the document to the access point of the receiver. And the access point of the receiver sends it to the receiver's inbound invoice tool. And based on that, you actually can implement a connection with any sender to any receiver with no limit. That is the idea of very large-scale interoperability that is behind Peppol. Now, there is a second dimension that is important. I will go very quickly through that. It is the contracting. Why does it work? I told you there is a governance. Governance means that people make agreements, and to make sure that anyone can send anything to anyone else and that they understand each other, we need a chain of contracts. So the sender has a contract with this access point. The access point has an agreement with the Peppol authority. The Peppol authority has an agreement with the Peppol coordination authority. And back to the other way, the Peppol coordinating authority has an agreement with the other access point, and the other access point has a contract with the receiver. And based on that, because all these agreements have the same terms and conditions, we can secure juridical safety of the exchanges on a federated network, which is quite key, and also reliability of the exchanges thanks to the operational terms and conditions that are also foreseen in these agreements. I give you a last glimpse on where we are going to. It's called the Peppol International Invoice Model. For the moment, there is still a difficulty in communicating with Asia, Pacific, America. Why? Because the standards that we are using are European standards. And the standards that Japan is using is a bit the same, but with a Japanese color, a Japanese style. Most of the time it's about the tax, the way of handling tax. It's not the same. The bottom line is that it blocks the transfer of the exchange of invoices at that level, interregional level. So to sort that out, Peppol has designed a new data model and a new exchange principle based on which European enterprises will have European standards, Japanese enterprise will have Japanese standards, but these standards will overlap, and the shared part of the overlap will be considered as the necessary information, so that the people don't really need to have exactly the same standard. They just need to have standard within a common family. That creates a lot of flexibility in the network, and that will sort out a lot of difficulties that we have been experiencing in the interregional invoicing scenario. Okay, so a small slide to finish. The takeaways. E-invoicing is considered for us as a way to boost digitalization, especially for the small and medium businesses, not for the big corporates who are already doing EDIs for decades, but the SMBs. And the government agency are waiting for those kind of initiatives to go further in the digitalization. The B2B mandates in Belgium really mobilize the IT industry. We really can see that it all moves very fast now. So it enables that large-scale digitalization, and we hope that it will have a lot of spillover effect in the future. Peppol must be just considered as this technical enabler. Even if there's a lot of governance, it still is a technical thing between IT companies. And future improvement, like I told you, I think there's a lot more, but if I just have to give one, it is the international invoice, which will open a lot of interesting tracks for exchange with outside of Europe and outside of Belgium. Thank you for your attention. I hope I'm still in the timing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this really interesting talk. If you want to ask a question, you can scan the QR code here and I will ask them. So the first question is, what if your supplier is not yet registered after 1st of January 2026?
Okay, good question. You have a website called e-invoice.belgium.be where you get answers to all the business questions. So I encourage you as an enterprise to visit that website. There is a frequently asked questions section that is very well done by our colleagues of finance. Now I will answer the question, but also from a technical point of view, if the sender is ready to send on Peppol and the receiver is not yet ready to receive, it's not the problem of the sender. The sender just can find another channel to send the invoice and he will be compliant with the law. That's the most important thing. You can do that already. You don't need to wait for the 1st of January. You can already use your systems and you need to think with a cascade. It's not only for the Belgian traffic. Even in Belgium, you have non-VAT liable, so in the future you will still face the same scenario in Belgium. And for cross-border traffic, we are not competent to oblige the people to receive e-invoices on Peppol outside Belgium, so you still will face the same kind of scenario in the future. So I really encourage the IT sector to think in cascade mode, where Peppol first is the common, the royal way, like I say, but you know that there is a risk that the receiver will not be available, then you foresee a second channel. Most of the time it will be a PDF by email because it's the zero footprint method, like we all know. We cannot encourage that as government entity, but let's be pragmatical. And what I can say is that you can also add a kind of disclaimer on that document to say, okay, we tried to reach you with an e-invoice, but you were not reachable, so we send you a good old PDF. But by the way, go and have a look at e-invoice.belgium.be and you might find a suitable tool. And doing that, you will help your customer. He will be thankful to you that you help him in his digitalization journey. That's my advice.
Thank you. What about the private persons? How can they receive their invoices?
It's not in the scope of the legislation today, so there is no change for the private persons, the households, the citizens. There is also no real technical solution. When we speak about e-invoicing, we speak about automating the flow from end to end. At this day, citizens don't have yet a tool to automate the processing of their invoices. Maybe in the future, think about your electricity invoice. In fact, with the smart meter, everything will become automated. And at that moment, it will make sense to think about the private people to also bring digitalization. But this moment is still too early.
Thank you. How can you test whether your Peppol invoices look okay, if difficult client requirements?
Well, the Peppol invoice, it's again a question of layers. There is a European norm on electronic invoicing and it defines all the standards. So for me, it's an IT question. The people who are running the IT systems, they must understand the norm and they must implement them. And when there are questions, they can ask questions. We have different forums. There is a service providers forum, but there is also a business expert group where the people can meet and discuss the scenario and come to common agreement when there is a possibility of divergence of opinion in the implementation of the standards.
Thank you. How flexible is the Odoo Peppol solution, and are retailers like Colruyt also asking for e-invoices to cross-border suppliers?
Colruyt, yeah, well, there are two questions.
Mhm.
How
Yeah, there's two
flexible,
questions.
how
How
flexible is the Odoo Peppol solution? That I don't know. I cannot answer that question. And then are retailers like Colruyt also asking for invoices to cross-border suppliers? Well, I hope so, because they are busy for a long time, and at the end of the day, the customer decides what he needs from the supplier. So for the cross-border, it would be very smart that they ask them, that they ask these kind of things. But well, I will talk with them next time I see them. I will ask them that question. I don't have the answer for the moment.
What about the check for the restaurants? How to do?
Or the check from the restaurants. I mean, the restaurants. If the restaurants if the customer is a company, yeah, that is really more VAT questions and financial questions. So I cannot answer that. It's a good point, because we have two different documents. You have the paper from the restaurant, which allows you to deduce the VAT and or whatever, or the costs from your declaration, and then you have the invoice. And for the moment, I'm not sure that a restaurant issues an invoice. Normally, there should be invoice issuance, but because there are those two there is an overlap between those two documents. Finance has to sort that out. As both I'm not competent for that.
What are the sanctions if not aligned with regulation? Is there a period of flexibility to adopt e-invoicing?
Well, that is again a question for the colleagues from finance. So you can also ask question when you go on e-invoice and you don't find your answer on the facts, and I really encourage you to start by reading the facts. But if you don't find the answer, you can ask a question. There is a contact form, and these people, they really answer your questions.
Is Peppol free of charge?
Well, Peppol is part of the offering of your software, so it's not really free of charge. Somebody has to pay. You know, so what we do as a Peppol authority, there is no cost attached to that. It's financed by public money. For the central bodies, there is a fee system. It's an association, and all the people who are member of the associations, and this includes the operators, so the inner periphery and the authorities, the outer center, all these people, they contribute to the costs of the central bodies. These central body, they deliver a terrific work, they deserve to be paid for that. There is a cost associated to that, but it goes through your operator.
Thanks. If not Peppol, what other famous software exists?
Peppol is not a software. Peppol is not a software. So if the idea is you use your software, and in the background there is a Peppol connection. Now there are also other networks, and like I said, this is a two-track process. You have to be Peppol compliant, but you can also use other networks if there are reasons to meet your trading partners on very specific platforms and when networks separate. And for that, I cannot really say much more. It's a market situation.
If you have 90% of your invoices, if 90% of your invoices is to private person, do all your invoices have to be sent through Peppol, or only the 10% that are B2B invoices?
Only the 10%. But you have also inbound invoices, and these invoices, they come from VAT liable, so it's not just the outbound invoice that you have to consider. The inbound invoice is quite important too, and that is 100%.
Next question is it possible to send an e-facture e-invoice with a government tool, web tool interface?
There's no such possibility. The only exception is if you send an invoice to a government entity and you don't have a sending tool, then you can use the Mercurius portal. There is a form where you can key in your information manually, but that's not really invoicing. It's also manual, so it's not really, it's like a temporary solution for the people who don't have an outbound invoicing solution, and in the near future, none of us will have that situation. We will close that temporary solution.
How will businesses identify themselves to prevent fraudsters from invoicing in their name in case of account takeovers?
Okay, so Peppol is a decentralized solution, so it's up to each and every operator to keep an eye on their own security. It can be that the operator would be hacked, so I advise you to choose a very secure operator. That's the best advice that we as a government can give you. The Peppol interoperability framework, the Peppol governance imposes very heavy obligation to the operators in terms of end user identification. Of course, we cannot check at all time that all operators meet all these requirements and obligations, but to be frank, I'm in Peppol for more than 10 years and I never really heard about that kind of situation. So I think that these IT guys, they do their job quite well, and I would encourage to give them the trust on that. The last word I want to add on this, it's really a conscious choice to go for Peppol and the decentralization, because it can happen that there is a hack, but it will only be a very small fraction of the network because of the decentralization, so it will not bring the whole system in danger, and the likelihood that you are affected will stay pretty small.
Thanks. We are running out of time, so I will ask a last question, and we can maybe go really quick. In France, why PDP instead of Peppol? What about the connection between both of them?
I'm sorry, I don't have all the details of the French situation. I know that there is a French Peppol authority and that they reuse the Peppol, I would say the inner periphery, they reuse that, but between operators. So I'm waiting also to see what it will exactly give. But I expect that there will be cross-border interoperability for the Belgian enterprises, and that is all what matters for us Belgian guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.